Greetings, friends. My name is Anna Nichenko, and now we will dive in the top news of this day. During almost 450 days of the war, already 200,000 Russian troops were killed in the war against Ukraine. This is according to the calculation of the Ukrainian General Staff. 200,000 is all the armies of Moldova, Estonia, the Czech Republic, Belarus, Finland, the Netherlands, Slovenia, Sweden, and Kazakhstan combined. Let me remind you that during the 10-year war in Afghanistan, the Soviet army officially lost about 15,000 soldiers killed and 50,000 wounded. And in the two Chechen campaigns, which lasted over 8 years, Russia lost up to 20,000 killed, according to the estimates of independent experts. And of course, the Kremlin will do everything possible to understate its losses in the war. But during autumn mobilization, the Russian army drafted almost 500,000 men. And this is one piece of evidence of the right calculation of Ukrainian staff. Of course, the calculation of losses during the war was never easy, and especially in the Russian army, where people in the army have not been very concerned for a long time. There are still disputes about how many residents of the Soviet Union died during the Second World War. It is difficult to calculate because of the huge number of victims and also because Moscow hides documents from the time of that war, because then the myth of a strong Soviet army can be destroyed. And now the entire Russian military ideology rests on the phrase, "we can repeat." The Russian passed the 100,000 killed mark on December 22, 150 March 2, and this rate, the 300,000 mobilized, will end in 6 months. But in addition to this, the Russians lost thousands of tanks, BMPs and motor vehicles, dozens of airplanes, helicopters, anti-aircraft missiles and air defense equipment. The most powerful army in Europe could be created from the destroyed military potential of Russia, but it is now destroyed. And now it is already difficult to call the Russian army the second in the world, because despite its huge size, it doesn't have appropriate management. Because of this, despite the huge army in the country, mobilization is announced, and if the losses continue, there will be more than one. But frankly, the Kremlin knows how to respond to new challenges. In particular, a bill with a proposal to change the conscriptional age has already been submitted. If earlier it was from 18 to 27, now it will be from 21 to 30 years. Probably there are not enough men at all, especially taking into account that the support for the war is the lowest among the youth. That is why it is necessary to call all the men into the army. And now summonses are distributed online, and those who do not want to go to the military commissariat and therefore to the army are forbidden to travel abroad, have their rights revoked, and are forbidden to take loans. So Russian men have two options: either live as a slave or go to the war. Of course, it would be possible to protest, but for that they will go to prison, as well as for evading the draft. Such is life in Russia. A year ago, in these days, Ukrainian soldiers under the patronage of the Red Cross left Azovstal, where our garrisons defended itself and our country for more than 2 months. During this time, our helicopter groups made several evacuation flights to Mariupol. They brought food, medicine, and took out the seriously wounded. According to the Russian mass media, 2,449 men and women left our plant. Most of them are still in captivity, and their conditions there are terrible. Our soldiers are subjected to psychological pressure and torture. Representatives of the Red Cross are not allowed to visit them now. Moreover, some of the prisoners died during an explosion in the prison in Elenivka last summer. And this is not all that our captive heroes are forced to experience. This shot with the Ukrainian soldier Maxim Kolesnikov have become popular on the internet. Yes, Maxim didn't defend Azovstal, but he was in captivity for more than 11 months. And during this time, he never saw an ordinary apple. This is the attitude towards our soldiers. Now our leadership is insisting on the implementation of an all-for-all exchange. And according to the head of the main directorate of intelligence of the Minister of Defense, Kirill Budanov, this is real.
We are, in principle, approaching it. Let's look at the numbers again. As of now, more than 2,200 people have already been exchanged. This is an unprecedented case in world history. No one did that. All exchanges take place after the end of fighting and not during. Kirill Budanov, the chief of the main directorate of intelligence of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, in an interview with RBK Ukraina.
In general, the defenders of Azovstal are another heroic Ukrainian myth of this war. Photos from factory catacombs became popular all over the world, received international awards. But most importantly, these photos showed how bright, beautiful and courageous our soldiers are, despite all. And I will tell you that not only our soldiers are like that, the whole nation is like that. We urge Global South countries to increase their support for Ukraine, which will help to protect the Ukrainian people from Russian aggression, liberate all of our territories and defend the principles enshrined in the United Nations Charter. Since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we have faced challenges to our maritime trade, including the blockade of our seaports. The Black Sea Grain Initiative, brokered by Turkey and the United Nations last summer, is under threat now. We need African, Asian and Latin American vocal voices to defend it and restore freedom of navigation in the Black Sea. Freedom of navigation is a cornerstone for economy, trade and sustainable development. Ukraine's agricultural exports are essential for global food security. Ukraine is one of the leading suppliers of wheat, sunflower oil and corn to the African, Asia and Latin American markets. We stand ready to continue to be a reliable partner in this area and secure your right to food. Ukraine has a clear vision for a comprehensive, just and lasting peace. President Zelensky outlined it in his 10-point peace formula. Whether fighting environmental hazards or bringing Russia to account, you'll find a role for yourself if you want to contribute to peace. We invite Global South countries to choose specific peace formulas, points where you feel your contribution can make a difference.
There are thousands of miles between our countries, but we have a lot in common, and we can achieve even more together. You proud countries appeared in the struggle for freedom. The will to freedom is in your DNA, as well as in ours. At the same time, freedom must be supported by security, governance and economic growth. People need to feel safe and empowered. International cooperation can facilitate this, even if countries are separated by an ocean and thousands of miles. Dmytro Kuleba, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, at the summit of the Association of Caribbean States.
Ukraine formed an international coalition of 37 countries to work on the establishment of a relevant special tribunal to prosecute Russia and its leadership for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. It is crucially important that countries of the Global South also demonstrate their regional and political leadership by joining the coalition. That concludes today's video. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for future videos. Goodbye.